The dead don't speak, but sometimes their silence is louder than any scream. It was the kind of place where the fog rolled in thick over the water, swallowing up everything in its path. Ashcroft, a coastal town where the air smelled of salt water and secrets. And it was here that Detective Elena Rivers found herself standing over the body of yet another victim, a young journalist named Madison Grant. Maddie had been on the verge of a breakthrough. Something big. The kind of story that could take down corrupt powers running the town. But before she could tell anyone, she was silenced. Her body found just outside the gates of the Rivers family estate. The same estate where Elena's sister had been murdered 5 years ago. Same quiet town. Same eerie circumstances. Elena's gut twisted as she surveyed the crime scene. Everything about Maddie's death seemed too familiar. It was a haunting echo of her own tragedy. She'd spent years searching for answers to her sister's death, only to hit dead ends. And now it seemed like history was repeating itself. The suspect? Victor Hayes, a man who had always lingered on the outskirts of the town's gossip. In his late 40s, reclusive, with a history shrouded in mystery and rumors, he lived alone in a rundown house on the outskirts, a place that seemed to match his reputation. But Victor had never been charged with anything. No one could ever prove he was involved in the disappearances of several locals. But that didn't stop the town from whispering. Elena wasn't like the others. She wasn't interested in rumors. She was interested in facts. And as she dug deeper into Maddie's life, she found something that tied Maddie directly to Victor Hayes. In the weeks leading up to her death, Maddie had been investigating a series of disappearances that all pointed to Victor. It seemed like he was the key to everything, but the question was, what was he hiding? The breakthrough came when Elena uncovered old town records, things most people had long forgotten. She learned that years ago, her own family had been involved in shady dealings with Victor's family. Land deals, business ventures, and something darker. A buried secret that connected both families to a criminal syndicate that had been operating under the radar for decades. The more Elena uncovered, the clearer it became. Victor Hayes wasn't just a suspect, it was part of a much larger web of corruption that reached far beyond Ashcroft, and Maddie had gotten too close to it. But Victor was still a ghost. Elena had no hard evidence tying him directly to Maddie's murder, only a trail of suspicion that led her in circles. She needed something concrete. It was then that Elena received an anonymous tip in an old journal belonging to Maddie, hidden in the abandoned tunnels beneath Ashcroft. The tunnels had been used for smuggling during Prohibition, and many believed they were still being used to hide something. Elena followed the lead, and what she found there would change everything. The journal contained a list of name-shy profile names, including Elena's own family members. They were connected to the criminal syndicate, and the trail led back to a cover-up of Maddie's murder. But the most chilling part? The journal detailed Victor Hayes as the final piece in the puzzle. He wasn't just hiding in the shadows, she was pulling the strings, orchestrating everything from behind the scenes. Elena confronted Victor at his home. The interview was cold, calculated. He didn't deny his involvement but claimed it wasn't what it seemed. He said he was merely protecting Ashcroft from the truth, protecting the people he loved. But Elena knew better. Victor Hayes had been part of a much darker operation, one that killed to maintain its grip on the town. And then, like a switch, he said something that shook Elena to her core. "Your sister didn't die by accident, Elena. She was in my way, just like Maddie was." The words echoed in Elena's mind as she left his house, realizing that her search for justice had cost her more than she could ever understand. The town wasn't just hiding its past, it was feeding on it. And in the end, the truth had cost them both everything. What if the killer you're hunting has been dead for 100 years, but the murders never stopped? What if the same cold hands that ended lives a century ago are still reaching from the grave? Jonathan Blake had spent his life studying the dead, historical crimes, forgotten cases, and killers whose names had faded into history. But this case? This case was different. It started with a letter. Clara Fielding, a woman in her late 20s, had reached out to him with a chilling claim. Her great-grandfather, Edgar Fielding, had been wrongly accused of a series of brutal murders in the early 1900s. The crimes were infamous. Young women found strangled in their homes, a symbol carved into their wrists. The papers called it the Duval murders, named after the first victim, Martha Duval. Edgar had been the prime suspect, but the killings continued long after his death. Clara wasn't just searching for the truth. She was trying to clear her family's name. Jonathan was skeptical until he saw the crime scene photos. The way the bodies were positioned, the precision of the killings, the eerie calm in the victims' lifeless expressions. He'd seen something like this before, but not in a 100-year-old case. In a murder that happened just 3 days ago. The same symbol, the same method, the same shadow creeping through history. Jonathan and Clara dug through old police reports, newspaper archives, and case files long forgotten. In a faded police transcript, they found a chilling detail, a witness statement from 1912 describing a tall figure in a dark coat, watching from the shadows, vanishing moments before each murder. The same description appeared in a modern-day police report. The deeper they went, the more disturbing the connections became. Each generation, the murders would start again. Different names, different victims, but the same precise, ritualistic execution. It was as if someone had picked up where the original killer had left off, like the killings were being passed down. Then, Jonathan found something that made his blood run cold. A grainy black and white photo of Edgar Fielding, handcuffed, his face half in shadow. Standing just behind him, barely noticeable, another man, his features sharp, his eyes dark and piercing. Jonathan had seen that face before. In a modern surveillance photo, from the crime scene of the latest murder, Jonathan and Clara raced against time, piecing together a legacy of death that had stretched across a century. Was it possible? Could the killer have found a way to live on through blood, through family, through something more sinister? Clara was desperate to believe her family was innocent, but doubt gnawed at her. Every new clue chipped away at the stories she'd been told growing up, turning cherished family history into a sinister puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. If the truth meant uncovering a legacy of bloodshed, was she truly ready to face it? But as they followed the trail, they landed on something even worse. The killings weren't random. They were planned. And someone in her family had ensured they continued. Because sometimes, monsters don't die. They evolve. And this killer? A breath too close. A shadow shifting in the dim light. He wasn't from the past. He was standing right behind them. Some murders never truly fade into history. They wait for the next chapter to begin. He didn't need a mask. He didn't need a weapon. All he needed was Wi-Fi. Sophia Martin had spent her career tracking cyber criminal shackers, identity thieves, and digital stalkers. But nothing had prepared her for this. It started with a name, Hannah Wells, a rising social media influencer, found dead in her apartment. No forced entry, no signs of struggle, just a single message left on her phone screen. You should have listened. The internet buzzed with theory suicide, overdose, a jealous rival. But Sophia saw something different. A pattern. Hannah wasn't the first, and she wouldn't be the last. As Sophia dug deeper, she uncovered a chilling trend: young influencers, all connected through obscure mentorship programs, vanishing or dying under mysterious circumstances. The common thread? Erin Griffin, a well-respected online life coach with a devoted following. Charismatic, inspirational, dangerous. On the surface, Erin was everything his followers admired: successful, charming, always offering advice on how to take control of your destiny. But underneath the carefully curated persona, Sophia found something else. Deleted messages, private chat rooms, encrypted conversations where he manipulated vulnerable people, pushing them to their breaking point. She traced his victims' final moment cryptic tweets, desperate private messages, sudden withdrawals from social media. It was like watching a digital noose tighten around their lives, one DM at a time. Then, Sophia received an email. No sender, no subject. Just 2 words. Stop digging. Her heart pounded. She wasn't just investigating Aaron Griffin. She was on his radar. As she raced against time, Sophia pieced together the terrifying truth. Aaron didn't kill with his hands. He didn't have to. He used persuasion, pressure, and fear. He found his victims in the comment sections, in late-night live streams, in the lonely corners of the internet where people searched for meaning. He was always watching, always waiting. And now, he was watching her. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place when Sophia infiltrated a hidden forum linked to his network. Dozens of usernames. Conversations about testing loyalty. And then, her own name, her address. A final message appeared on her screen. Your story ends tonight. But Sophia wasn't just another follower. She was prepared. And as Aaron Griffin's empire crumbled under the weight of undeniable evidence, he learned the hard way: when you live by the internet, you can die by it too. Because in the digital age, even the most careful predator leaves a trail.
Like, subscribe, and comment.